planet has been trembling again. In one single week, the crust beneath our feet moved with unusual rhythm. A magnitude 7.6 earthquake struck in the Drake Passage south of South America. Only hours later, the Philippines shook with waves of force measuring 7, 4, and 6. 7. In Papua New Guinea, 2 more quakes followed at 6. 6 and 6. 3. Off the coast of Kamchatka, the ground rippled with a 6. 1. It was as if the earth itself had drawn in a deep breath and finally exhaled. Above the surface, another story was unfolding. A stream of charged particles was racing from the sun at almost 700 kilometers per second. The source was a dark region across the solar disk known as a trans-equatorial coronal hole. It stretched across the solar equator and spun out a ribbon of plasma that cut straight through the plane of the planets. Scientists measured the density of that solar wind and watched it drop below 1 particle per cubic centimeter. That number is tiny. It means space around us thinned to an almost perfect void. And it is within that void that great earthquakes seem to appear. This particular coronal hole carried a negative polarity. Its magnetic field aligned perfectly with the magnetic field of Earth. Like 2 gears locking together, they transferred invisible energy through space. Over the last 90 days, this same pattern had repeated. The high-speed stream would sweep past Earth. The pressure from the solar wind would collapse. And within days, the planet would shake. The timing was too precise to ignore. You can imagine the Earth as a living sphere surrounded by layers of invisible pressure. When that outer pressure falls away, the crust may flex outward ever so slightly. A small release deep underground can then slip across a fault. What seems like nothing on the scale of the cosmos becomes a moment of destruction for cities and oceans. Satellites at the L1.1% of the distance between the Sun and Earth show the current data. The velocity of the solar wind rose from around 400 to more than 740 kilometers per second. At times it touched 800. The temperature of the plasma climbed and the magnetic field fluctuated wildly. The KP index, a measure of geomagnetic disturbance, passed the threshold of 5, placing the planet under a G1 geomagnetic storm. It is the mildest category of storm, yet powerful enough to twist our magnetic field from pole to pole. It is after such peaks that the most powerful earthquakes seem to follow. No one can say why with certainty. Perhaps it is expansion. Perhaps resonance. The magnetic field of the planet responds to solar wind like the skin of a drum. Each pulse ripples through the crust, through the mantle, through the deep, slow heart of the Earth itself. On global maps, 3 zones now stand out like bruises beneath the surface. Kamchatka to the north, the Philippines and Papua New Guinea across the equator, and far to the south, the Drake Passage near Antarctica. In that cold stretch of ocean, the sea turns gray and endless. Waves move under clouds heavy with ice. Below that darkness, the tectonic plates grind slowly, building tension through decades of silence. Now 3 large quakes have come from that same region within a few months. Normally, it would take decades for such power to repeat. If you draw a line from the Drake Passage through the center of the Earth, it rises almost exactly on the opposite side near Kamchatka. One quake echoes another across the planet, an antipodal resonance that scientists are only beginning to understand. If energy seeks balance, as it often does, what happens on one side may soon answer on the other. These are not prophecies. They are patterns written in the language of physics and observation. A magnitude 8.5 quake from that southern region is not certain, but the odds are higher than usual in the coming months. The data shows it. The rhythm suggests it. The planet is alive and every tremor is part of its breathing. Look up now, far beyond the blue air that covers our world. The sun turns slowly, its surface scattered with dark whirlpools of magnetism. Each sunspot is a vortex larger than the Earth. From the edge of that fire, a stream of plasma escapes and crosses millions of kilometers to reach us. When the density falls and the pressure drops, the energy around our world changes. The field lines stretch and bend. The ionosphere hums softly. Deep under the ocean floor, faults feel that tiny difference. It is hard to imagine how something so far away can touch the ground beneath your feet. But think of the sun as a great heart, and the earth as a cell within its body. The blood that flows between them is made of particles and light. When the pulse quickens, every organ feels it. When the pulse slows, the body shifts. The solar wind right now is still strong. 700 kilometers per second is not just a number. It is motion beyond anything we can see. Each proton and electron travels that distance each second, weaving magnetic lines between worlds. When the density drops below 1 particle per cubic centimeter, the vacuum grows deep enough for entire magnetic layers to realign. The Earth senses that change. The compass needles drift a little. The auroras move closer to the equator. The atmosphere vibrates with unseen currents, somewhere far in the Pacific. Ocean waves pass over a fault line still trembling from last week's quakes. The energy is not gone. It is stored, waiting. Above it, the geomagnetic field shimmers as the solar wind brushes past. And somewhere, maybe in the dark of early morning, someone looks at a seismograph needle drawing a restless line and wonders if this pattern will repeat. Our planet is not isolated. It listens to the sun. It listens to the geometry of space. Even the comets drifting through the inner solar system now add their quiet note. They are small, icy conductors passing through the same field, linking star and planet through electric breath. In this moment, while you listen, the Earth is wrapped in a thin magnetic storm. The solar wind flows at 740 kilometers per second. The density remains low. The crust still hums from the movement of the week before. We are in an earthquake, watch not from fear but from observation. The patterns of energy around us are shifting. The Earth responds in its own way, always seeking balance. As the night deepens, imagine that balance as a slow tide. The geomagnetic storm glows faintly at the poles. The deep ocean swells and relaxes. The air itself holds a quiet current. The same current that turns the sun, that moves through the vacuum, that touches every rock and tree and heartbeat. It is the same current that hums inside you. The story of the shaking Earth is not one of chaos. It is one of rhythm, and the rhythm continues. The sun has changed again. In just a few days, the number of sunspots on its glowing face has doubled. From 60, they climb to more than 130, and they may rise to 200 or more before the week ends. 2 regions are forming directly on the side of the sun that faces Earth. Each is a magnetic storm the size of our planet, spinning and churning in the fiery sea of plasma. From space, the Solar Dynamics Observatory sends back images at 304 angstroms, wavelengths invisible to the human eye. In that light, we see the sun's surface as a living ocean. Waves of plasma rise and fall. Loops of fire bend and snap. Bright threads of electricity lace across the surface like nerves under the skin. One small puff of plasma escaped yesterday. It was not aimed at Earth, but it was enough to remind us how close we live to power we can barely imagine. Every one of those dark regions carries a magnetic field that reaches far beyond the sun itself. The field lines twist together, then reconnect. And when they do, they release energy greater than 1 billion nuclear bombs. These eruptions can send particles racing across space. The same particles that now strike our planet and spark the geomagnetic storms we measure as the KP index climbs. This is solar maximum. The 25th solar cycle is nearing its peak. It happens every 11 years when the magnetic field of the sun flips and the north becomes south. During this time, sunspots multiply, solar flares increase, and the solar wind becomes turbulent. It is a heartbeat in cosmic scale, a pulse of heat and magnetism that shapes the weather of space itself. As the sunspot count climb, the velocity of the solar wind remains high, still around 700 kilometers per second. The density hovers near 1 particle per cubic centimeter, thin enough to let magnetic fields stretch and twist. The temperature of the plasma is measured in hundreds of thousands of degrees. Each stream of particles carries with it a signature of the solar region it came from. Scientists can trace these streams back to the coronal holes, reading them like fingerprints on light. Yet something else is happening. The inner solar system is crowded with comets. Small icy bodies glow as they move near the sun. They leave behind trails of dust and ionized gas that become plasma tails. Each tail conducts electricity, linking the sun and the planets in a delicate electromagnetic web. Most of the time, these comets move quietly, but when their number increases, the entire circuit of the solar system becomes more complex. The sun reacts, sometimes subtly, sometimes with flares and storm. Imagine the space between planets not as empty darkness, but as a living network of currents. Charged particles flow along invisible lines, connecting Earth to Jupiter, Venus to Mercury, Saturn to Neptune. When 2 large planets align, their magnetic and gravitational fields combine, creating resonance across that network. At this moment, Saturn and Neptune are in a slow conjunction. They move together like deep tones in a cosmic chord. Their gravity is faint at our distance, but their alignment hums through the solar field, adding texture to the energy that washes over our world. When such resonance occurs, the sun often becomes more active. Flares burst from regions that were quiet before. The solar wind changes direction slightly. The Earth's magnetosphere feels the difference. It compresses on the sunward side, expands on the dark side, and the auroras shimmer farther toward the equator. What seems like random beauty in the sky is actually the visible skin of a vast electrical symphony. Inside this network of fields and particles, our planet moves like a bead of iron in a magnetic stream. The crust responds to subtle pressure, the oceans respond to the pull of gravity, and the atmosphere carries traces of charged dust. Some scientists call it space weather. But to imagine it more clearly, think of it as the weather of a great invisible sea. The waves are made of energy instead of water, and we sail through them every day without feeling the wind. During times of high solar activity, this sea grows rough. The sun throws waves of plasma outward, and they travel millions of kilometers before reaching Earth. The data shows that we are now surrounded by one of those waves. The storm is classified as G1, yet it has already pushed the KP index above 5. Ground-based magnetometers show the field lines of Earth bending like reeds in the wind. In some ways, these storms are small rehearsals for greater events. A stronger eruption could send a coronal mass ejection our way, compressing our magnetic field until satellites flicker and power grids hum. In the past, events like the Carrington flare of 1859 sent auroras as far south as the Caribbean. Telegraph wires caught fire. Today, such a storm would fill our skies with light and test every circuit we depend on. Still, there is wonder in it. The same energy that could disrupt our machines also paints the sky in shifting colors. In Alaska and Norway, people step outside at night to see curtains of green and violet ripple across the horizon. The light moves silently, like thoughts made visible. Each particle of solar wind collides with atoms in our atmosphere and releases a photon. Billions of those collisions create the dance we call aurora. As you picture that glow, imagine that somewhere beyond the horizon the Earth is trembling again. Maybe a minor quake beneath the ocean floor, or a deeper movement too slow to feel. The same forces that light the sky are stirring the crust. The link between them is not yet proven, but the coincidence is haunting. From the surface of Earth to the outer edge of the heliosphere, everything is connected through magnetism and motion. The sun breathes. The planets answer. The comets weave through the current, and we drift inside it all. When we speak of storms and quake, we are describing the language of energy itself. Now the night grows quieter. The geomagnetic readings still show turbulence, but the human eye cannot see it. Above the clouds, solar particles stream past, wrapping our planet in invisible light. Below, the continents rest for a moment between pulses. Take a slow breath. Imagine the sun as a vast golden heart, beating once every 11 years, sending out waves that travel across space and touch the Earth with gentle force. Imagine the solar wind as an endless tide, and our world as a single island within it. The sun is awake. The web around it vibrates, and we, bound to it by gravity and light, continue to turn. Part 3. The invisible wave and the human connection. A few days ago, instruments aboard the solar orbiter recorded something strange. A dense wave of plasma swept across its sensors halfway between the sun and the Earth. For a moment, scientists expected a direct impact, a shock wave that would light up our magnetosphere. But the wave never arrived. The Earth remained quiet. The skies stayed calm, and yet the data was clear. Something massive had passed nearby, unseen. The reason became clear only later. The solar orbiter was positioned 10 degrees above the ecliptic plane, slightly higher than the path of Earth around the sun. The wave had moved along that upper line, missing our planet by a narrow margin. 10 degrees may sound small, but in cosmic distance it means the shock brushed past the invisible edge of our atmosphere and kept moving. A near miss, a whisper instead of a storm. It is a humbling thought that such enormous forces can pass within reach and we feel nothing at all. Yet some people claim they do feel it. They speak of restless sleep, strange dreams, a quiet vibration in the body when space weather changes. Scientists call it biomagnetic sensitivity. Our nervous systems are electric. The heart, the brain. Every cell responds to electromagnetic fields. It is not impossible that we sense the rhythm of the sun the way a bird senses the pull of the magnetic poles. If you are one of those who feels the storm, there is comfort in grounding. Step outside when you can. Let your feet touch the soil or the grass. The Earth carries a natural electric field that connects all living things. When you make contact with it, the excess charge in your body finds balance. Concrete can also carry that field, but asphalt cannot. Rubber soles insulate you from it. The simplest act of walking barefoot for a few minutes allows the body to reset, like a circuit closing gently. While you walk, breathe. The air around you carries traces of the same ions that travel through space. Each breath is an exchange between worlds. The particles that left the sun days ago are now part of the wind that moves across your face. Inhale slowly, exhale completely, and imagine that every breath is a conversation with the cosmos, the sun, the wind, the ocean, and your heartbeat are all part of the same pattern. What happens above echoes below. What begins as a pulse of plasma ends as a flicker of electricity in your muscles. The solar wind continues to blow at 700 kilometers per second. The density still rests near 1 particle per cubic centimeter. Somewhere in the magnetosphere, the Kp index flickers between 5 and 6. These are not just numbers, they are the tempo of the system we live inside. Tonight, the geomagnetic field hums with quiet energy. Satellites pick up the fluctuations. In northern skies, auroras stretch like green rivers, moving without sound. Beneath them, the oceans roll against the shore. Far below, tectonic plates adjust their weight, millimeter by millimeter. As the energy of the last week slowly fades, the Earth is releasing tension, finding its equilibrium again. Imagine standing by that ocean. The air is cold. The horizon glows faintly with aurora light. You can feel the pull of gravity in your feet and the whisper of charged wind around you. The planet beneath you is solid, yet always in motion. Its surface drifts, its field changes, its core spins. Above, The sun burns and breathes. Between them you stand, a fragment of both, half dust, half light. We live within a magnetic symphony that never ends. The solar wind, the cosmic rays, the resonance of planets, all weave together into a constant hum. It does not seek to harm us. It is simply the sound of existence. Each storm, each quake, each flash of aurora is one note in that endless song. There will be more storms. The solar cycle will continue to rise, perhaps for another year before it calms again. Sunspots will form and vanish. The velocity of the wind will surge and fall. The KP index will climb past 5, then drift back to quiet. The Earth will move in response, sometimes subtly, sometimes sharply. This is not chaos. It is a rhythm. As you lie down and listen to this, imagine those rhythms extending beyond you. From the molten iron of Earth's core to the cool air around your skin, from the bright corona of the sun to the dark dust of interstellar space, everything is part of one breath. When the solar wind slows, we rest. When it quickens, we stir. The mist shockwave reminds us how thin the line is between disturbance and calm. A few degrees in space, a few hours in time, and the story could have been different. The Earth might have glowed with auroras at every latitude. Instruments might have recorded magnetic surges strong enough to make power lines sing. But instead the wave passed quietly above, and the world slept beneath it. Now let it sleep again. The energy that surrounds us tonight is gentle. It moves through the air, through the soil, through the water. It touches every atom and leaves no mark. You are part of that movement. You have always been part of it. Close your eyes and feel the rhythm that connects you to the planet. The slow turning of Earth beneath the stars. The soft pulse of your heartbeat matching the faint vibration of the field. The sound of your breath matching the wind above the atmosphere. Somewhere far away, another stream of plasma leaves the sun. It begins its long journey toward us, a message of light that will arrive in a few days. When it does, the cycle will begin again. The KP index will rise, the auroras will dance, the crust will sigh, and life will continue, balanced between gravity and grace. For now, everything is aligned. The magnetic field holds steady. The oceans sleep. The continents breathe. The storms above have faded into silence. Rest in that silence. The Earth is calm. The sun watches. And the cosmos, vast and patient, hums softly around you. If you found calm in this journey, take a moment to stay with us. Subscribe to Cosmic Sleep Science for more stories that blend wonder and rest, science and stillness. Now, goodbye.